From the Spacebird Media Studios, it's Roxanne and Ace Unlimited.
Hey, we're Roxanne and Ace back for another great Friday, and so excited as you're a part of Unlimited. Thanks to our friends at My Brother's Cup and Birmingham Mortgage Group. Roxanne, have you filled out your brackets yet?
No, that ain't my thing. My thing, no, I couldn't care less. I don't know who's playing. I don't know what's up. I know
Right.
I know people don't want to hear that. What I am interested in is Kate Middleton. I tried to avoid it, Ace, because a modified family photograph doesn't matter to me because I modify everything. I figure
Right.
a mama wants to fix her picture.
Most
Let the
people
mama
do.
fix her picture. Leave her alone,
Yeah.
right? But now this thing has legs. It's all the girlfriends are talking about. Where is Kate Middleton? Who hired the PR team at the palace because they need to be fired?
Yeah.
Where is Kate Middleton? And all of the theories surrounding she went in for stomach surgery, right? She's missing in action. A video appears suddenly of her at some farm place with William. They don't look at each other. Everyone thinks it's a freaking, can I say freaking body double? It's not her. Then the conspiracy really gets cranked.
Sure.
Her children never went to see her in the hospital for months. What is that? Some say she was in a coma, so they didn't allow the kids to see her. Others say William is just like Charles. He's got a little concubine, and this person's been identified. She's pregnant. So people are saying, I'm just saying, people are saying that William has impregnated this woman. Kate found out. Kate had a mental breakdown. And that's why we have not seen Kate for months on end. Why does anyone care? People tried not to care. But after a while, it's like, is the princess with us? Is the princess okay? And I'm going to ask you, as the guru of all things PR, wouldn't it make sense for Kate, who is beautiful and sweet lady, seems to be, just to go on video and say, hey, I'm recovering. I'm good. I'm having a ball with all your theories. I just want to tell you, I think it's funny, and just be light and upbeat and put an end to it. Right? Is there, what am I missing?
No, you're not. You're spot on, because that was my thought as well. I'm like, in a day and age of social media, like I know there are etiquettes and protocols with the royal family, stick out your pinky and just let us know you're okay. Like it shouldn't be that difficult. I mean, you're 2 seconds away from being in front of the entire world. So I totally agree. Now, I know in a world of like deep fakes and AI that people could say, oh, that's not really her, but there has to be a way to authenticate that it is her, and then she can put all of this to rest.
Well, she's overly in this video. Hey. And people really believe it's a body double due to security concerns. Now, I was just in London. I just had, I was standing outside Buckingham Palace. I had the tour from somebody who knows a lot about the royals. And she said, Kate Middleton is very public. She goes out all the time, waves at people. They're familiar with seeing her all over London.
Yeah.
She's been missing for months. And when that happens, I mean, God forbid, we don't want anything to be seriously wrong with her. And she doesn't owe us her, like if she had a hysterectomy, maybe she doesn't want people to know that. It takes a long time to recover. But the wheel now has gotten out of control, and no one seems to want to do anything about it.
Well, and that's what I feel like, especially as the boys have kind of gone the way of their mom and wanted to be more contemporary in traditions, but still be respectful of of being a member of the royal family. I would think that they wouldn't want this to run out of, like, the more that there are theories and conspiracy ideas, at some point, even Charles would have to go, enough, go go on TikTok right now and let them see that you're okay. Like I would think, and maybe that's the dad in me. Like I don't want people talking bad about my family. Like keep your opinions and your thoughts to yourself. And if you got a problem, you come to me and then we'll talk it through. But I don't know. At some point, they're going to have to go public.
Well, we absolutely had to address it. And like I said, I tried to just kind of keep chilled about that. But wow, it became impossible to do so. So everybody's like, you know what? You need to address that. So it has officially been addressed.
Maybe what we need to do is just chill, have a cup of the Roxanne blend of coffee, and maybe we can, again, stick our own pinkies out and, mind our own business, but also knowing that you're helping in the midst of great ministry.
So there's a big article that's come out, and I love the title of it, How to Talk About God Without Making It Weird. When you're in the workplace, not in the average workplace. I mean, you and I have been blessed to work in workplaces that are openly Christian and it's encouraged to share your faith. Most places aren't too fond of that, really.
Yeah.
So how do you go about being an evangelist and a representative of Christ in a place that may not be? Number one, they say just relax. People are people. We all have things that we deal with. And it might be best. I would always say, Lord, what do you want me to say? What do you want me to do? And 9 times out of 10, it was be quiet, be still, and let someone talk.
Yeah.
Create a connection before you go you got to have Jesus on them. Do you know what I mean?
Well, sure. I mean, and I grew up in that, hey, do you know Jesus is your personal Lord and Savior? Like I heard that so many times as a kid. Like I am kind of polar opposite of that because I want people to get to know me based on family or musical taste or experiences in life. And then as you're talking, just let your faith come out naturally. Let that conversation, because the great thing is God will guide our conversations. He doesn't need our help. He chooses to use us freely when we allow ourselves to just chill.
He doesn't need our help. Exactly. And, he is guiding us if we'll just stop and listen. And there was a time when I was able to really share with somebody at work who was receptive to hearing it. But I think it was after a trust was built.
Right.
So
but
I do think that's
you built the
important.
connection first, and then you let the faith part of it come naturally, which is what we should all do. So build a connection so that they know you care, that it's not just about, ooh, another soul for Jesus. I mean, let's, because you don't want to, because then it sounds like once they make that decision, then you're like, okay, let me go on to the next one. It's not a notch. I mean, we're building
No.
community here.
Oh, goodness. I do not think the Lord would be too pleased with it being a notch. The Bible has a lot to say about pride. All right, we go from that to the key to a healthy and stable marriage, not making your marriage be everything you have.
Yep.
You come to the marriage a full and complete person, and then everything out of the marriage is out of overflow. Maybe I'm not describing that correctly.
Yeah, I totally agree. Because again, and I've said this before, and it always bears repeating, I told my wife, I am not here to make you happy, and vice versa. So be happy, be joyful. I will choose to do the same. And then we can celebrate each other. And then when you're down, I'm here to listen, and vice versa. But again, you have to be one with Christ so that then you can bring your all. It's not a 50-50, it's a 100-100. And then some days you may be on like 16, but again, the other person can understand that because they love and respect you, because the day will come, maybe the very next day, where it's flipped. And you have to give that room a buffer. Otherwise, you're exhausted and you don't feel like you're giving anything or getting anything.
Well, and everything begins with your value to Christ, because people are going to be disappointing. People are going to leave. People are going to make mistakes. People are fallible. But the King of Kings loves you as you are unconditionally. It's something we need to keep reminding ourselves of, I think, as we progress in life and we deal with what life is, which is tribulation.
Yeah.
Jesus said we're going to have it, and boy, do we have it. We've got death and drug abuse and wayward kids and problems at work. And I mean, you name it, life can be pretty painful.
Yeah.
But what we have as a constant is our King Jesus.
Amen. Amen. Well, I know that when it comes to making those decisions for your home, how to get into one and afford it and all of that stuff is by calling Terren Newell at Birmingham Mortgage Group, ready to help you now, both in Florida and the state of Alabama.
He is so conscientious. It's like a project with him. It's a personal thing for him to be like the mortgage guru, to find the program that's perfect for you.
Yep.
It's not this cookie cutter, let's get you in and out the door. It is, let's save you money in a time when we need to make our dollars stretch. And he's a lover of Jesus, a great friend. What's so funny to me is people who worked with him years ago are still chatting with Terren because they love him.
Yeah.
He's just that good. And I promise you're going to love your experience. BHAMmortgage.com or simply call 205-259-1656. Oh, and we got to talk about construction.
Yeah, he's working
You
with
can build the home of your dreams.
And that's the cool part. If you're wondering or worrying about the price point, let him find out for you what he can do with special programs. And working now with Smith Douglas, he's allowing himself to be able to also help you to get into that dream home and create it from the ground up. So again, check it out, BHAMmortgage.com. Tell him you heard about it on Roxanne and Ace Unlimited.
So, I'm all fangirl when it comes to Tim Tebow.
Of course.
Tebow. What can I say? So he goes off to Congress. I mean, who could tell Tim Tebow no? I don't think that's possible. He goes to Congress and says, do you know about child sexual exploitation? What he's done for human trafficking single-handedly is really pretty amazing through the Tim Tebow Foundation.
Yeah. But
he went to Congress and said, listen, we need more money to combat this problem of human trafficking, vulnerable people. We need, here's what he wants, to advance legislation to protect children seen in child sex abuse material by funding and training more law enforcement. Seems to me common sense would say our law enforcement needs to be trained about human trafficking and child sexual exploitation. Why would anybody listening to Tim Tebow bring that up at Congress say no? Why? Well, it needs to happen.
And you're in the streets every week helping these girls or, in the streets with all of this same activity. Do you feel like that this is a part of the solution, or do you feel like there's something else there that needs to be funded or educated on?
It helps when law enforcement isn't like, let's just lock them up, because here's the problem. You've got a woman, you're going to lock her up. She has no ID. She's probably in drug abuse. She's probably going to be bonded out within a day, and she'll be right back at it in another house. Yeah. So if there is not a basic understanding that this is a victim, then we've got a real problem on the street level. It's just going to keep popping up. People say, well, why don't they just get the guys doing this, and why don't they just put everybody in jail? Well, they bond out and they pop up down the street at another motel or another house. Mm-hmm. And so it seems to me, how expensive can education be? I guess they want to make it expensive. I don't know, but anything that brings awareness is good. And when we're talking about children, pornography is fueling people to want that with younger and younger people. Mm-hmm. And it's fueling that desire. And it's feeding into an industry that wants to go from watching something vile on screen to doing something ungodly, violent, illegal to an actual child. Mm-hmm. You didn't come to this podcast to be outraged, but that's outrageous.
Yeah. Well, and it's definitely something.
It's the epitome of evil.
Yeah. And committing to prayer that this movement that Tebow's trying to do will move forward, because he's willing to fund whatever he's suggesting, but also find ways for state governments to also fund, knowing that you could cut down on it in your own streets with the proper training and education. It's not just about, well, they're just all bad and they choose that. Sometimes they get thrust into it. How about start there and then allowing yourself to find that solution and be a part of helping someone and being community driven. So I'm with you. I'll try not to be enraged with you, but I totally feel you on all of that.
Well, I love you. You're so wise. And so thank you to help. We just got to keep getting the word out there. How to become the type of boss that people love working for. Remember the golden rule? Well, that's basic. I mean, every boss should treat people how they want to be treated.
Yeah.
Have some basic confidence building activities. I don't know about that. Ace, help me here. We went out to some park and we all did like a seek and find activity together. And I thought, just what?
See, I feel
Is
like
it really
bonding,
building?
yeah, bonding in the office or bonding in the workplace happens naturally when you do like what we were talking about earlier, being willing to just listen to people's conversations when you ask them about their weekend or how was your night or whatever, like genuinely listen and then let conversations that, or if they're wearing a rock t-shirt or a, whatever, you start a conversation with them about those things. And then the camaraderie is built naturally. I don't need to go paintballing or, do an escape room with someone just to feel like, okay, now we can work together. Like, stop that. And again, to go back to the golden rule part of it, the best way to be the boss that everybody wants to work for is don't be a jerk. Like, don't have your own agenda. Don't come in with,
Yeah.
I got to make them like me. And, you can Michael Scott them all you want. But at some point, you've made things awkward. And then everybody's like, okay, I like him or her, but I don't really want to hang out. Like, if there's any bonding, it's going on with all the team and the boss is isolated.
Well, and here's the thing, don't have your favorites that you hired. So the people you didn't hire, you dislike, and you make it obvious.
Bingo.
That is something you and I have experienced, and it is not pleasant. You can like people that were there before you.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's really
Some people are the arm, some people are the baby toe, but everybody has a part. Just stay in your lane and love each other.
all right. Let's talk about how we should order our fries at McDonald's. People are like, I don't eat at McDonald's. And I go, well, do you like the fries? They're like, yeah, they're kind of good. All right. Here's the thing, because people are going to tell you. No one has told me they don't like McDonald's fries. That's not going to happen. So when you roll up, according to TikToker, and she has 315,000 responses,
Yeah.
a former employee, she says, you're doing it wrong unless you order, I want the seasoning for the Angus burger on my fries. And they say when you eat them, it's like Nirvana. Ah.
All right. See, and what to me, I'm a purist, just some good old fashioned salt. That's how I grew up with McDonald's. They taste better in the car than eating them anywhere else.
They do.
So it's the
No,
first thing.
stop.
Yeah.
No, stop. That's brilliant. Why? Ace, I've never thought about that before. Why does it taste better in the car?
It's the perfect
Why?
munchie. It's the perfect munchie. And I've trained my kids. All my kids know this, that when I'm driving, you're in the co-pilot seat and we stop for food, always give me my fries first because I don't need this whole couple of bites burger, couple of bites nugget. Like, I don't need that. Like, I want my fries first because that's the crunchy and I will not eat them soggy and there's no going back. It's just the way of the road.
But it's better in the car. Maybe it's because when we were little, I don't know if it was true for you, but McDonald's and to get a Happy Meal was the biggest, most fun, most fabulous thing as a kid. And you would eat it in the back seat. Remember when the back seat was free? Like you were up in the window in the back. No one was strapped in. Kids
Yep.
were wild. Kids were everywhere.
It was the greatest. I want to go back. Well, actually, now I won't fit up there anymore. But anyway, the thought that I could or want to is always there. Well, we always
All
love
right.
to.
And
Go ahead.
you know me. I've been dying. My husband's like, are you going to talk about this on a Christian podcast? I said, yes. Yeah. He said, why? I said, because I want to.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know there were things like all nude cruises.
I didn't know. It doesn't surprise me that it exists, but I am a little. It's not something I would go on.
So someone who went to report about it,
Yeah.
right, said 20% of the people on the new cruise are attractive, 20% are average. And in this person's probably snooty opinion,
Yeah.
60% were unattractive. This is how my mind thinks. And I know Tawny would be with me on this because she's got picky eating things.
Mm-hmm.
When it is time to eat, I need people to have clothing.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I tell my son, I'm like he'll come out of his room to go sit at the table and I'm like, put a shirt on. Like, I mean, he typically has on pants. I'm not saying he's sitting there pantsless, but it's like, I don't want little teenage chest hairs popping up and landing, in the mashed potatoes. Like, let's have some couth with our meals, It's the little things that mean a lot to me. You know what I'm saying? We're Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. Always great when we can bring you a wealth of information, especially as Roxanne and I having 20 somethings in our own lives and our own family that we're encouraging. We need the experts to help shuffle that along as well.
Well, here's a stat. A recent survey of employers by intelligent.com revealed that 46% of businesses would prefer to hire an overqualified older employee and avoid working with someone younger. There's this entitled thing, and we don't know how to work with people new to the workplace. We need to be honoring of our God in everything we do and have a better understanding in how we go about things. And the gentleman who is the expert on this, I was so excited to find him, certainly knows what he's talking about. He's been involved in the delivery of several, multi-million-dollar businesses, $100 million business and technology transformation. He's led and grown a consulting practice with 75 million in annual revenue. The guy knows what he's talking about. And he's a godly guy. He is doing market maker ministries to assist professionals. We all need it. And so we are super excited to welcome our next guest. So thrilled to have with us a graduate of the University of South Florida, Derick Masengale. Hi there. How are you?
I'm doing great today. I'm so happy to be with you all.
So how much on this stat should we really be worried? Like, because I know I just had a discussion with my almost 25-year-old daughter this week about her career and the things that she wants to do. And it was a very healthy one, but she's also a very disgruntled, frustrated, like everything she wants to go for is not coming back at her. So how do we have that conversation and hire the right next generation?
Yeah, I mean that's a difficult one. As someone who's hired hundreds, if not thousands of people over my career, I've definitely seen attitude changes over time. And there's no question that, that there is a view in especially the younger, college graduates or that we would want to bring into our firms. There is a sense of entitlement. There is a little bit different view of how they perform their work and what they want to get out of work. And quite frankly, I don't think all of it's bad. It really is us taking time to invest in them, to help them with their thinking and help them understand, we don't want to change their thinking necessarily, but we may want to change their work habits and their approach a little bit. And we can do that by spending time with them, helping them understand, what our objectives and goals are for the work that we're doing and why we do the work. I see that as, we're talking somewhat in generalizations here because obviously everyone has their own unique perspective. But one of the things is that study and other studies show is that the younger folks want to feel like their work means something. And they want it to have meaning. And maybe from our perspective as followers of Christ, some of that meaning may not be what we would expect or want it to be, or even think that it's the right thing.
Yeah.
But the whole notion of having meaning to your work is really about what I wrote this book about. And it is, same thing I struggled with in my career. How do I bring together the spiritual growth that I'm having and interleave that with the career growth I'm having as well? And that was really the big question for me. And I think in a lot of cases, that's the question for them, especially the folks that are followers of Christ, to help them, make that leap and understand how that they can bring the two together and then deliver the impact that they want to deliver and have that value that they're looking for.
Well, Martin Luther King talked about being the best at street sweeper there is. If you're going to have a job, be the best you can be in that job. And I think a lot of times we think things are menial or they're not worthy of us, when in fact it takes the body of Christ to make the world work. And I think if we could get across that, it would be easier to have meaning in our everyday tasks. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's right. And I'll tell you what the big thing for me was that I learned. It took me maybe 5, 8, 10 years to figure this out. But I was really struggling with, how do I bring the two together, my career and my spiritual growth, right? And my faith. And finally, one day, the Lord said to me, go look up the word ministry in the dictionary. So I went and looked it up, and it simply means to serve. And as soon as I saw that, I was like, I get it now. My role is to serve. So whether you're a street sweeper or, whatever you are, you have a group of folks that you're servicing, whether it's the community in the role that you're doing, it's also your colleagues that you're working with, helping them be successful in their roles, and your firms. So when I saw that notion of it simply is to serve, I was like, okay, it's okay to bring all of that spiritual truth into the environment, because I do have a ministry. And that ministry is serving all of those folks that I'm working with, my clients, my community, my colleagues, my firm. And so that was really, a revelation for me, and something that I was able to, be that real waypoint in my life where I was able to actually start bringing more and more of that to what I was doing. And it drove success in my career.
Well, and I was fortunate enough early on, before I got into radio, someone pulled me aside and said, if you care about the vision and you believe in the leadership, then the places you go, you will feel like you matter because you're learning and contributing. How much of that is still true, and how did we convey that to Gen Z?
Well, I think it's still absolutely true. I find that, whether the young kids that I'm working with, whether they believe totally what I believe, it doesn't really matter in that context. It really is, how are we working together as a team? Do they have the respect for me as a leader? And do they really realize that I care about them and I want them to grow and I want to see them maximize their talents and whatever it is they're doing? And just a follow-on to the previous question, when we talked about, a ministry, the other thing, the last chapter of my book is about walking in love in the business world, right? And it really is about me as a leader caring more about the folks around me than I am caring about my own success or my income or things of that nature. So it's bringing the love of Christ into the environment. I'm not preaching to them about Jesus, but I'm treating them with love and respect. And they don't have to agree with my perspective on life or anything, but they recognize that you have someone there that's leading them, that cares about them, and they're willing to put in that extra effort to help the team and you be successful.
I think you hit on something so important. If you think about the great bosses you've had over the years, you think about the ones that are invested in you, that think you do well, that want to see you succeed, that care about you. So as a leader, give us some examples on how you went about showing people that you cared about them.
Viewed as someone who always had an open door. So it didn't matter what level in the organization you were in. If you wanted to talk to me, you could come in and talk to me. And that was intimidating for a lot of people. So in some cases they didn't, but their friends would encourage them and they would come in and they would talk to me. So one is just giving people time, because as you give them time, that's how they recognize that you actually care. I could go around and say, I care about you, and then never talk to you. And that really has very little meaning to those folks. So you have to, one, spend the time. And then you also have to just help teach them and show them, here's the way to look at this. Here's a way to think about this challenge that we're facing. And as you go through your career, you're going to face similar challenges. So here's a framework to think through that. And I found that folks were really really thankful that I would spend the time and help them think through how to address the challenges that we were facing as a team. So they had that in their toolbox when they went forward on their own, more directly in leadership positions on their own.
How much from the perspective of the future bosses of our kids, how much are they living in a stigma of that generation? Like, is are they really all alike, or is it just that we've created, or a stigma has been created because they see people making money doing nothing on social media, and so they think, oh, I don't have to work, I could just, I mean, how much of that can we kind of push in challenging future bosses to lift that veil?
Yeah, I think that goes back to how you view your work, right? So if I view my work as my ministry, right, that is my role in ministry, then how I frame how I interact with people, how I frame the objectives for the organization, there's a different perspective that we would bring as followers of Christ into that environment that maybe others can't. And it's not because we're better than them. It's just because, we have access to the Word of God and the Holy Spirit, and that helps guide us in a way that blesses those people that we're working with. And I think that is, to me, one of the keys to really be a differentiator and to be a great leader. And, there's a camp out in the world today that's promoting servant leadership. Well, there's no better servant leadership than what Jesus provided to his disciples and to us, right? So that notion of servant leadership is kind of flowing out of the gospel, if you will, and landing in the business world, and people don't know what's driving it. But that view of how to lead, I think, is the differentiator for folks in the success that's going to differentiate them in their careers.
The problem isn't a lazy young person who is entitled coming out of school expecting the world with very little effort. It's more a problem with the leadership provided to that person, because often the expectations aren't being spelled out.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. I mean, if you see we all see in the media how leaders are portrayed in business today, greedy, and they're this and they're that, and it's not a positive light. So a lot of those folks are going into those environments already thinking that's what they're walking into. And as I said earlier, they're looking to make a difference, and they want to have a positive impact on society. And, they have these grandiose ideas, and they're great. I'm glad they do, because you want that energy and you want them to be there. But that perspective changes when they actually start working with someone that has a different perspective on what it means to lead and what success means. Success to someone who's a follower of Christ, I don't believe is based upon their own personal success. If we do it well, we'll receive success. I've been given the opportunity to lead very large organizations and do things that were very exciting to me. But it wasn't about me. It wasn't about trying to drive my income or my responsibility. It was about serving those people that I worked with, and those opportunities were created. And when we do and act that way, that's a perspective that a lot of folks actually don't see. And they recognize the difference. I've had multiple times in my career where people have come to me and say, you handle that situation different than a lot of other people that I've seen. And they meant that as a compliment, because I wasn't freaking out. I was more reserved and calm and treated people with respect, no matter what was going sideways and all of the pressure. Folks recognize that, and they want to follow that type of leadership.
So good. Well, the book is called Business as a Calling, Bringing Your Whole Self, Body, Soul, and Spirit to Work. And we've had a great opportunity to get more on this. Derick, what's the best way for people to find you and reach out?
You can find me at marketmakerministries.com.
Before we let you go, we always love to check in on each other's vibe. Roxanne, what are you vibing on this week?
Oh my goodness, Trent Shelton. I know you love him too, because you were the one who mentioned him on social media to me. I don't know if you remember this long ago. A former NFL player kind of got dumped out of football, lost his way, and became this, personal achievement guru. Protect your peace. and this is good, and it's in giant letters. We can't waste our precious time on earth pouring our energy into things or people that drain us dry. It doesn't mean kick your relatives to the curb.
Yeah.
It means there is a point where feeding into something that takes your peace away doesn't make much sense.
Yeah. Well, and you know me, I'm all about, peaceful place. That's why we, follow after Jesus anyway, so anything that we can do to hold that in place is worthy. My vibe this week is the new album from the Black Crowes. It's
Oh,
phenomenal. It's and for those of us that grew up on them, it is 100% takes you back, to Southern Harmony or any of the early stuff. But here's what I love about aging rock stars is they write about things that we connect with now. Like it's about, loss of love and, bad choices and ain't who I used to be and all of that. But yet it's with, some beat and rhythm. Like I still want to move to it and I still want to rock out to it, but just to hear the heart. And there's some songs that if you didn't know it was the Black Crowes, there are some lyrics that straight up sound like a worship almost.
wow.
Not saying that that's what they intended, but it's just my
Yeah.
filter in listening to the album. But if you're a Crowes fan, you're probably already listening. But if you're not and you miss Southern rock and roll, it still is alive and well. And Black Crowes are doing their part to hold on as much as possible. So check it out when you get some time. Great way to jump into your Holy Week, which of course we will see you next Friday. Make sure you like, subscribe, and follow us so that way you don't miss out on future episodes. Thanks again to My Brother's Cup and also Birmingham Mortgage Group for making this week possible. Roxanne, I love you.
I love you so, so much.
You've been listening to Roxanne and Ace Unlimited. To make sure you don't miss future shows, you can subscribe anywhere you like to podcast and catch up on anything you've missed. Find out more at RoxanneandAce.com. Roxanne and Ace Unlimited is a production of Spacebird Media.